confidence is getting so good at something it becomes like boring. Like you're not confident in something because you haven't done it enough times for you to be confident in it.
The Content Capitalist Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast. Today we've got a guest, and about 2 months ago, first heard of him, never heard of him before, found him on a YouTube video, and I've never watched a video that so clearly described the situation that was going on in my agency, 20X Agency. I immediately reached out, and right now we're at a situation where we're actually working together, and I convinced him to come on the show and share about his business, what he's doing, and most importantly, about content marketing and how you could create that experience for your prospects and clients. Austin Schneider, welcome to the show.
Super pumped to be here. Excited to see if I can add some value and share some inspiration to some people, and hopefully they leave pumped. Got Ken in the king chair.
This is the one thing about my setup, my office here, that people keep commenting about is the chair. And this actually, what happened was my father, he was moving out and he was going to scrap this thing. And I was like, that looks kind of unique. So I asked him if I could have it. He said, sure. And just for fun, I had it sitting here in my podcast and people kept commenting. I'm like, yeah, I guess everybody's either got like a gamer chair or just like a regular office chair. So this kind of looks different. So sure, why not? Let's make it fun.
I dig it.
Awesome. So Austin, we've been working together now for a bit and we've been building out a bunch of systems. But I think the thing that first caught my eye was really the ability to connect with a very specific niche on a very deep level. And I've been through multiple coaching programs. I paid for, online events, in-person events, courses, et cetera, et cetera. But this was the first time that somebody said, hey, if you've got a creative agency and you're facing A, B, C, and D issues, and you're looking for A, B, C, and D results, then this is how you do it. He shared a lot of how-tos right there on YouTube, and I was really thinking to myself, this guy has nailed the message for the audience. And that's when I actually made a decision based on, not necessarily on results. I wasn't even going to look for reviews. I was just like, just the fact that he understands it so well tells me that I want to connect with him. So that's what brought me here. And now we get to share some of that magic, that messaging, and your methodology behind it with the entire Content Capitalist audience. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. Yeah, I think the reason that it connected with you because we've been there. I've been there. I've had the same pain points. So yeah, it's like we could market a message of guarantee you 100 clients in 10 days, blah, 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 blah. But we've walked in the shoes at a high level. So we understand the real pain that happens when you scale, just like what you're experiencing.
So before we jump a little further into it, could you give us an overview of what is it you do? You got your agency, you've got your coaching program. You're also a bit of a freak athlete and do really intense things, physicality. Give us an overview of that.
So yeah, I started a marketing agency in 2018, which is still alive. It's called Brantegic. Hired a CEO, I would say about a year and a half or 2 years ago to operate that so I could pursue consulting, which is what I felt really passionate about. So we kind of, I would say 3 years ago, made the decision that Mark would take over as CEO. Then I could venture into something new. Wasn't really sure what it was, and landed on consulting. So once that transition happened about a year and a half ago, picked up consulting just so I could focus on one thing. It's really hard to chase too many rabbits, and I've done that before. And you just do a lot of things not very good. So transitioned into consulting. So we've been at it for, I would say, about a year or so, full time. Yeah, and then outside of that, I'm a husband, not a wife. I'm a husband. I have a beautiful bride who is amazing. And then, very into endurance sports. So all things self-inflicted pain through endurance sports, I enjoy. Ultra marathons, triathlons, Ironmans, long distance cycling, the type 2. We call it type 2 fun.
I never heard that term, type 2. Where does that come from?
Yeah. So basically it means it sucks while you're doing it, but afterwards it's fun. You look back on it, it's fun.
Kind of like the aftertaste after, like a bitter lemon or something, right?
Yeah. Sucks while you're doing it, but afterwards you're like, oh, that was really fun.
Got it. I got to look for some more type 2 activities.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess going to the gym. No, I actually really enjoy the gym, so can't really say that. Well, I might have a few. Haven't really thought about it that way before.
You should sign up for Misogi. Have you ever heard of a Misogi?
It sounds Japanese and I feel like I should know, but I don't know what that is.
Okay, well, in the American, like what they call it is basically you do like one time a year, you do like an event. So it's inspired by Jesse Itzler, and then another guy who wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. And basically they talk about this Misogi. This is what inspired me to get into endurance sports, where basically once a year you do something so hard that like makes you feel anxious before you do it. And then you do it. And then at the end of it, it like increases your capacity, makes you feel more confident, blah, blah, blah. So my first Misogi was like the Grand Canyon. I'm going to go around the Grand Canyon, rim to rim to rim, 50 miles, bunch of elevation, whatever. And yeah, it kind of like sparked a lot of that stuff. So Misogi, check out Misogi.
I did hear that a guy named Sam Parr in a podcast, My First Million, he was talking about how he does that too. Now it's coming back to me. Actually, I do have one planned. I just haven't set a date. Maybe I should, which was the 12-hour walk. And that was 12-hour nonstop walk. And what's the name of the book? There's the guy who walked from one end of Antarctica to the other across the ice and it took multiple days, and he was racing somebody else, and he was dragging this sled, which was over 100 pounds, of all the food he's going to need for the trip, right? And his tents and everything. And I was listening to his podcast of that journey, and it sounds brutal. But then he wrote a book, and he's just like, no, I think it was like 50 days or something that he did. But he said there's a state of flow that comes when you can get yourself to walk for 12 hours straight. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, it sounds low intensity, but boy, I'm thinking like at the 8-hour mark, everything in my body and my brain is going to be telling me to just stop, sit. It's like Mr. Beast, he did that challenge where he challenged someone to lift a 1-pound weight until failure. And this guy was like a professional bodybuilder. And I didn't watch it, but the whole thing is just way too long. But then, when the guy came down to his last reps, he was struggling and dying, to lift 1 pound. And it was low intensity, just going on until forever. So that's my Misogi. I'm going to call that a Misogi now. And I got to figure out where that word came from. Sounds really cool. Going back, why did you start in the first place? Did someone say, hey, you've got a good eye for video or something? Like, what was it?
Yeah, marketing just in general, like the agency. Before I started the marketing agency, I was actually selling real estate. And that was like my first entrepreneurial journey out of like more corporate work, more like specifically sales. I was like really interested in entrepreneurship, like was really curious about listening to a lot of Gary Vee, like bet on yourself, you got this, whatever. I was like 22 years old, and I was like, oh, I want to be a real estate agent and like sell houses because it looks fun and people like dress fancy and it's cool and you can make a lot of money and whatever. That was the appeal of it. So when I was in real estate, I was like, okay. People are saying like, go knock on doors, go send direct mail, like go do all this stuff. I'm like, I'm going to learn social media and get really freaking good at it because that's where I spend like 70% of my downtime, and that's where all my friends are spending 70% of the downtime, and it's only growing. At this time, like there weren't even like reels, like TikTok wasn't even like in existence, so like there was none of that. So I was like, cool, I'm just gonna get really good at social media. And I got really good at social media, started getting business from it, and then people kept asking me for help. They're like, hey, Austin, like how are you getting business on social media? How are you doing these cool videos? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there might be a problem here that I could solve. And then like what you said, I had a mentor. His name is Jeff Rogers. Specifically just at that phase of my life, and we would meet for coffee once a month, like religiously. He's like a spiritual mentor, just like a business mentor. He's in like private equity, so it was like really cool to pick his brain. He's the person who said, I think you're onto something with like this like service, like creative stuff. I'm not sure if like real estate could be your thing, but I think you could be onto something with this. And that sparked like me beginning to offer it as a service while I was doing real estate, and then finally made the transition from real estate into full-blown marketing agency after like figuring out, like making all the mistakes, of course. But after I was able to replace the income and then just realizing like opportunity cost and the net positive of starting the agency. So that is how it started.
I'd imagine though that people who saw your work and got interested are probably in the same industry. So were you literally getting paid by your competitors to help them compete against you? Like, So how did that work in terms of like conflict of interest here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, in the real estate industry, it's very much like a who's who. It's like a connectors kind of like industry where like the more people you know, like the more opportunities you get. And like there's always networking events because you need to be seen and blah, 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 blah. So I would go to events and I would meet a lot of people. And then like I was in real estate, and then naturally it would be like this mortgage person or this title person or this home builder or this person. So there's a lot of different like webs outside of real estate that were asking for help that I was able to assist. And then eventually, as I like finally burned the boats of being a real estate agent, then I was able to like help a lot more like brokerages and like agents and stuff like that. Once I was like not really associated with being a realtor and is more like an agency owner, that became more normal when I like became unlicensed.
Yeah. And how old were you here? You said when you started you were like really early 20s, and then when you made that a clean break,
probably like 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're moving fast.
That's it.
Like moving fast.
I was young.
Nothing to another.
I have no idea. I was just doing. Like I was just like, cool. What can I do? What can I try?
And did you have family at the time?
So my dad lives in Las Vegas, so I was living in Seattle at the time. So not really. And then my mom
I
like
mean, like in
lives
terms of like,
5-hour drive.
did you have a wife you were supporting at the
Oh,
time? Were you married?
I was dating Sabrina,
Okay.
like my
Okay.
current wife
So it's
now.
not like you're carrying a burden of wife and kids and, so when you make these shifts, then, so I always think about that because I didn't start entrepreneurship until I already had 6 kids. And so every single move feels huge to me, and I'm just like, yeah. But then sometimes I hear people's stories and how much they shifted. And I got into this bad habit of comparing, like how difficult it was for me to shift from one to the next. But when I put that one factor in, like if they were supporting a wife and 6 kids, would they have made the same choice? And then I'm thinking, okay, that kind of levels the playing field here. And I don't feel too bad about moving a bit slowly on business moves and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
So talk me through, you started this, agency marketing, and did you niche down into one particular industry, or did you just do the thing where you say, if you got money and you got a business, and let's work together?
It was pretty much, if you have a pulse and you're willing to pay me, I'll freaking figure it out. Because like I was high operating and I could basically do just about everything. But I would say I would be like, oh, I'm going to consult. Like the thing that I wanted to do was like consult people. And because people were like, hey, can you help me? I didn't really I didn't even know agency was a model when I was in real estate. Like I didn't even know that was even like a thing. I didn't even know people could pay for marketing services. Like I had zero clue. So yeah, so when I first started, it was like people would ask me for help and then I'd be like, oh, I'm going to consult for you and I'll just give you like the roadmap. We'll go through some presentations, blah, 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 blah. And then problem with that was they wouldn't do anything I told them to do. And I realized they just want it done for them. So I was like, okay, I know how to work a camera. I know how to post on social media. I know graphic design. I can just do it for them. So then I started doing it for them. So I remember like my first clients were like in mortgage, title, I had like a HVAC company. Yeah, basically anybody who had a pulse, I would say yes to. And that worked up to a point. I would say like the season was overwhelmed. The season was like burnout, broke up with my girlfriend because I was basically had a job. I had like 10 different jobs essentially from the clients, and it was not a fun place to be in. So in short, I did not niche down.
I see this post you put up not long ago. It says, you don't need to be confident in yourself to start. You need to start to build confidence. Confidence comes from action. Talk to me about that. Like, is this like built on this stage of your life where you were just like, building confidence through action versus the other way around?
Hormozy put this like a really good way, is like confidence is getting so good at something it becomes like boring. Like I think that's maybe how he framed it. Maybe phrasing it differently, but like you're not confident in something because you haven't done it enough times for you to be confident in it. So in order to build confidence, you just have to do the thing a ton of times to the point where you're just like, cool, I can do that. I feel confident in building the system. I feel confident shooting this piece of content, right? It's like with anything. So how you build confidence is you just take action like a ton, and then you'll be more confident in that thing the more you do it.
Now you're at the stage where you're a freelancer and you're pretty much doing agency work, and there was a next bump where you went, your agency did scale up, brand strategic, right? And now you stepped out into consulting again, but more pure consulting. Tell me the catalyst that got you, number one, like to start hiring team to the point where you could trust the CEO to completely run it, and then pivoted out of that again. What were the main drivers for that?
I would say like initially it was very disorganized. And I think my first hire was like a graphic designer, and like found him on Upwork. It was kind of messy. I had like a videographer like on like a very like weird like contract, and then he eventually quit, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So it was like a series of like failing and like doing a bunch of stuff. And then I actually hired a consultant. I hired somebody to help me out. And first thing that we did is we focused on simplifying the business and productizing essentially. So it was like, he's like, what do you guys do? Like, he basically took us through what we take you through, which is like, who do you help? What are the outcomes? What's the offer? Cool. How do we productize this? How do we make this a thing? And then that kind of like allowed me to zoom out and be like, okay, I need to look at this completely differently than how I'm looking at it. Because I thought it was like, dude, I'm grinding. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I was young. So I was like, I thought like entrepreneurship at the time when I was starting was like the cool thing essentially. And I took a lot of pride in just like grinding, and I didn't really look at it as a business. So that was like the first step. It was like, cool, I need to zoom out and like look at this as a business and like be more disciplined with it. That came from hiring a mentor. I would say I also got really lucky by having good people around me that I could hire. So one of this now CEO, he would like work with me part-time, and then he eventually came on full-time like a year later as he quit his corporate job. So that was like the first, I guess, like round. And then I would say like from there, like once we settled a little bit, I would say like the key pivotal things is like giving up control, learning to delegate, being transparent, getting people bought in, like having a mission that people are excited about, like a team environment, because that's all business is. It's like a ship which is headed in a direction. And what you want to do is you want to get a lot of people on these ship, like bought into the direction that we're going. And they need to know where they're going. They need to know like how the ship works. They need to know the numbers of the ship and like make sure it's like safe and all that sort of stuff. And then they need to feel like they have a sense of ownership as well in the mission. So that was something that we, like our culture, like was really big into, like we're on this together. And then like with the leaders of Brantegic, like very transparent, giving them power, delegating, giving up control, and leading through that. That was kind of like the leadership style.
That's a, mindset shift, culture shift. Like it's pretty much this evolution, right? From when you started to where you felt like you could exit, what was that time frame roughly? When I say started, let's say you came to grips with the realization that this is a must and that you understood, the benefits. Maybe it was your mentor that explained it to you in a certain way, to where you felt like, okay, I think they've got it handled, take a step out.
Yeah, I think it was like looking at the business from a business point of view. I mean, you can't see a forest when you're in the trees. So by looking at the business and saying, cool, like it wasn't a selfish reason that I wanted to like transition out. It was what is best for Brantegic. Probably Mark in the role as CEO for the company is probably going to be best, like going forward, just given me, given Mark's personality, all that sort of stuff. Cool. I need to be humble and look at the business and be like, okay, totally agree because of XYZ, this. So that was like really the catapult of the transition of doing that. Like when you scale, when you have 15, 20, 25 employees, like your job as a CEO is not building the business and grinding like what you love to do as a founder. It's human resources.
So did you mention the rough time frame from the realization to exiting?
I think it was probably like 2 years. Yeah. It wasn't like a light thing. Like it was something very thought out and methodical and took a lot of transition to get somebody up to that level.
When you started, did you set out a roadmap? Like is the 200 step process to from where we are to me exiting the business, or did it evolve and the time just kind of worked itself out?
Wasn't really my ambition to even like do that when I was first starting, but when we did game plan it, a lot of it was getting a lot of my CEO responsibilities like transferred over, which is like a lot of things. If you're not used to if you've never started a business or if you've never ran a business, like accounting and like financials and understanding that and empowering to make decisions when that comes up. So it was more of like that type of transition where it was like, I'm going to let you make this decision. Here's how like we're going to arrive at this based off of this, but like I'm going to let you make the decision and you actually execute the decision without me being the bottleneck essentially. So that way he could understand the process. And then also from the optics of the team, like he is seen as that guy and he has the authority to do that sort of stuff. So I was like, takes a long time to do that. You can't do that in a month whatsoever.
So now you've got this going. Mark is still running the business. Has it grown since he was CEO, or is it pretty much cruising at a level of pace?
So Mark he is CEO. Okay. So one thing that I'm not doing is I'm not trying to also be CEO. I'm not trying to make decisions. I'm not trying to like not let him be CEO. So I'm giving him a lot of freedom to like run with the vision, because that like on the job description of CEO that we created for Mark is vision, like where we're going, managing the financials, all that sort of stuff. So he has a different vision where I think he's working on he's still working on, even like a year later, still working on crafting like what is the vision, like what does he see so that he can then execute it and roll with it and make it his.
All the best to him. And that frees up a lot of your time. I want to pivot into what's working right now, because what you're doing with consulting, with my business and with a lot more, is helping people to use content, ads, organic, email, etc., and using that to help real businesses. And the way I look at it is when there's people online, you got a lot of influencers who are playing business owner, right? They got a big audience and then they try to give pithy business advice. And then you have real business owners who play influencer in order to extract more business or value from those social media channels. And I believe that most of your clients are helping the latter, real business owners who don't really get social media and helping them to play influencer. What are some tactics that are working better than most in terms of getting people who were not born with a selfie camera in their hand and don't want to do the dance moves, but maybe they've got a legitimate lawyer firm, doctor, architect, builder, whatever that's going to be, and they want a piece of the action on social media? It's what I found in my experience is some of these people just feel so unnatural, or they feel like it's not them, or they don't want to do all the stuff. How do you help them to actually become marketable on social media?
Well, first they have to realize that 80% of Americans are spending almost 6 hours a day on social media. And like, if they want to be seen in today's day and age, then that's how it's going to work. And like what you just said, like influencers trying to be business owners, like the reason is because the best known beats the best all day, right? If you're more known, then more people are likely to do business with you. So that's like the first thing is like we just need to realize we're sitting on like a huge opportunity from that. And secondly would be, cool, we're hit with a bazillion ads every single day, right? I think we're coming to that phase where what's going to matter the most when doing business with someone is likability and trust. So how do we, like as businesses, especially like a service-based business, which a lot of content agencies work with, it's like, how do we scale trust as much as possible? It's not going to be a mailer. It's not going to be your billboard. It's going to be social media content and being seen in video, in like your aura, how your demeanor, how you're teaching, how you're convicted about a specific topic, because that's how consumers do business at the end of the day. It's who they like and who they trust.
So we've given them that mindset shift that it's necessary, it needs to happen. But then what about the nuts and bolts of getting them in front of a camera, or what kind of content they should be creating in order to attract the right people? There's a ton of courses, tactics, YouTube videos on this. But you specifically, let's say there's someone who literally says, I don't want to be on camera, but we need to do social media. I've got this, let's just say, birdhouse, bespoke birdhouse building, business at home. Like, how are you going to help that person?
Our methodology is heavy organic content creation and then paid ads. And from the organic perspective, it's like what I just talked about, scaling trust. And then the ads is actually getting results. So that's what we're coaching a lot of people to offer to their clients and then like just do for their own business, because that like 1-2 punches really well. Because if you're just like, okay, I'm going to post 5 times a week on social media, unpredictably going to do what they probably actually want, which is to get more business. But if we can control the business side, scale trust, like that's a killer combination from the perspective of what I would suggest that they do. Like the paid ads thing, it's kind of like the predictability for a lot of businesses. Like, yeah, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever, like you would have a lot more ammo with just leveraging the organic. Combining the two, I think is like a very winning strategy that a lot of content agencies, if content agencies are watching this, like should be learning, is how they can leverage marketing with their content to provide their clients better results.
So circling back to what content agencies are doing that they could be doing better, you must have heard 100 stories about and seen a lot of situations. What are the top few that probably like 9 out of 10 chance a new client comes on, they've got a content or a creative agency, and you're going to have to fix something? What are the top most common things that you got to fix?
Yeah. From which pillar, offer or what? Or just in general?
In the order that you would present it to them.
Well, first things first is like offer. So like offer is generally very like output driven. So quantity of deliverables, like I'm going to do a video for you, I'm going to deliver a deliverable for you, not outcome driven. So like, I think, again, like what I just echoed, if you can have your offer be very outcome driven and predictably get an outcome, then you'll win. I think as content agencies, we have just a massive opportunity because we know a skill set that a lot of these PPC advertisers wish they had, which is content. So that's like offer. Systems, yeah, like they're the bottleneck in their business and the business runs them. They don't run the business essentially, and they don't have any infrastructure to run the business from. And it's very chaotic, disorganized. Like you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, did I do this? Or you're like, oh shoot, like did this person do this? You're unclear on due dates for your team because you don't have an infrastructure. You don't have like the bones to actually work with the foundation to build from. From a sales perspective, like kind of similar from a predictability perspective, whether we're relying on word of mouth and referral, or we don't have a predictable way to get new inbound clients that like we can rely on, that if we can just turn up and down, whether it's ad spend or volume of XYZ that we're doing. So creating predictability around the sales, so we're not in that feast and famine. And then going back to systems, like we want our leads to grow and then also our systems and operations to grow with it. So we're not the feast, famine, yo-yo kind of vibe is what I call it. And then talent acquisition is just like fear of delegating, hiring incorrectly, not setting good expectations, not setting up the team for success to actually do well, like an environment to thrive. There's no bad teams, only bad leaders. That's a Jocko quote that like I just like love when it comes to leadership. So like our job, and I say this a ton, is like a CEO is not like a chief executive officer, in my opinion. It's chief expectation officer. So if you can set expectations with your team and then also back that up with tools to get them to succeed, then you'll have a killer team that crushes. And that's how you remove yourself as a bottleneck. So in each pillar, so that was 4, those are the biggest mistakes that we see a lot.
Got it. And you tackle them in that order. Get the right offer in place.
Exactly.
And put the infrastructure in place and the systems.
Sometimes we'll flip the systems in sales, depending on the size.
Now, as I've been going through your material and looking at the systems, sometimes for me, this is not an issue, but some people might look and see that and feel like, hey, I'm a creative person. I'm not that kind of person who, is all in the weeds with the numbers and stuff. Do you ever get that kind of pushback?
I would say there's a lot of people who like want to have the outcome of good systems, meaning organization, all that sort of stuff, but tend to struggle with it, likely because they're more creative and it's kind of hard for them to actually grasp that.
And how does that usually turn out? Like, are there certain personalities that are just not cut out to be building and running businesses and they should hire a manager type person? Or should they just, I guess there's two options here. They could stay in their comfort zone, right? And they might be perfectly happy at, whatever income level and business level they're at. They could learn the skill themselves and up-level themselves, or they could partner with someone who has the skill set that they don't. Is that kind of how you look at it? Or is there another way too that we're not seeing?
I don't think there's anything wrong with like, if you're crushing it as like a freelancer and like that's what you want to do and like you really enjoy the creative aspect of it. But if it is, hey, I want to build a team, I want to hire a lot of people, I want to like do all that sort of stuff, then you kind of got to like buckle up and like realize like what it takes to get to that level. A lot of people are like, wow, Ken, you're a really successful business. Like, how do I do what you do? And then it's like, okay, Mr. Creative Agency that I'm talking to, do what I did, which is build systems, hire a team, took risks, like all that sort of stuff. So it's like they kind of got to buckle up and realize like that's what they need. And like having good mentors, like having people who can like copy and paste and like coach you on how to do this stuff is, and a lot of people don't talk about this. Like on YouTube, like I think I'm one of the very few people who are like, set expectations. This is how you build a team. This is Notion, because that's what actually gets you to scale. Like if that is your end goal, is to build and grow. Yeah, you could hire, but like I think that it's a very tough hire unless you can, like, I have a lot of people who come to me and like, dude, I wish I had somebody who could just like come in, had a partner, ownership mindset. It's very challenging to find somebody with those skills because it's not really something you learn unless you've built it, right? Unless you've actually been in it and like done it, where it's to a place where you can like copy and paste it and like teach on it and competently teach on it. Like some of the stuff we're teaching you and like Natasha, it's like we can competently teach on this because we've done it 100 different times and we've done it in our business, and there's no like YouTube or like school that we can go to like learn that sort of stuff. It's just action. So that's my hard truth answer, I would say.
That's 100% true. All the information is available in some way or another with, AI, Google, whatever. But what people really pay for is, number one, a structured approach that actually will follow, what the structure for your specific situation is going to work best for you. And the second one is somebody to help you when you get stuck. And if you could put those two elements in place, then the information's out there, but you really only trust the person who's done it and knows which information applies. All right. Talk to me a bit about, in terms of what's the relationship between your consulting work right now and the agency? Is there any relationship, or are these two separate businesses that you look at divided?
Two separate businesses, completely divided. Mark is CEO of Brantigic. Like maybe we'll FaceTime him once a month, like no real structured like advisement going on. And then consulting is the main thing, because it's really challenging to like be into two things. And again, I want Mark to be the CEO and he wants to be the CEO. So if I was any sense of control or had any direction, then it would kind of take away from that. And then also on the flip side, my capacity can go towards one thing so I can actually do it well.
You put out a great quote that spoke to me the other day. You don't need more time in a day, you need more focus. And that's what you're talking about here, right? And I think that's probably the biggest thing holding me back, is having this creative mind that has too many ideas and trying to fix too many things at once, and while creating something else at the same time. And if I'm honest, I think I'd probably be a lot further along in the business I'm in, the main one that's actually paying the bills, if I had not tried so many other things. But on the flip side, I don't think I would have ever gotten into this business if I wasn't willing to juggle balls while I was unhappy in my previous situation. So it's a little bit of an egg and chicken thing for me, because the best opportunities a lot of times they come about by starting as a side thing and then realizing, oh, this is the better thing, and then pivoting. Can you talk to me a bit about where you see things moving? I know recently a lot of people call it the chat apocalypse, where we're seeing a lot of movement from Meta in clamping down on how you can use chats and automations and things like that to market your business. How are you navigating this?
I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier with like the lawyer, like the bird example. It's like trust. Like I think people see enough. I hit 50K in my agency once and I'm a coach all the time and I'm going to help you get your next 10 sales. Or if I'm a business owner, like ads all the time. But what is, from like a human nature perspective and from a marketing perspective, in my point of view, what is going to like really separate you as a business is you. Like you being the niche, your client being the niche, Ken, you're the niche, I'm the niche, like, right? Like people connect with people. And I think that's like one, human nature, but two, from a marketing perspective, how do we connect with people, but also incorporate that into like the sales and marketing aspect? How do we leverage that? So like for us, like we're not doing like an ad to a VSL to like cold traffic and hoping that this 15-minute video will build enough trust for them to book a call. Like we're using marketing techniques to chat with them, like what you said, and like connect with them, and really leveraging long form videos to build that trust so that people are like, oh, he actually knows what he's talking about. And oh, it's actually resonating with the pain points because he's actually done it before. And oh, he's not just like a guru, like posting an ad and like whatever. Like I'm a human and I've done stuff, and now I'm trying to teach other people how to do it from what I've learned. Like that's simply what it is. But that's what we're trying to convey at AgencyU is like, hey, like we have stuff and like we want you to trust us because we're in the age where, especially in our industry, a lot of people don't trust us for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of, turn and burn type of agencies out there, and they come from a position of desperation. And it's actually, I'm actually thankful for them. And the reason for that is, number one, there's a lot of examples of what not to do. When I'm scrolling through my feed, sometimes I see something, I'm like, well, there's, on my do not do list, right? Because, it's just that gut reaction you feel when you see it, right? And the other thing is also, I think that it's becoming more and more clear to the, more sophisticated buyer. There's a line here. There are certain people who are value-based. They lead with that. And there's certain people who would say whatever it takes to make a sale. And there's been enough of this pattern where people don't fall for that stuff anymore. And it's more polarized. So in that sense, I appreciate them. And it drives more people my way.
100%. Totally. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't tell you how many people, like you, for example, you've been in so many courses and coaches and consultants, and I'm sure you've seen the worst of the worst, and you have the best of the best, and you have a good radar for that because you've experienced both ends of that.
Let's talk about future. You put on YouTube multiple times how you got your creative agency up to 200,000 a month, which is impressive. That's, over 2 million a year. And now you're not even in it. And presumably we're within that range. What's the next level for you? Where are you going? Is this consultancy going to become I don't know, like a licensing thing? What is the next level?
Good question. You got any ideas for us? Because we'll take it off. So, I mean, in our eyes, like we want to like basically continue to open up our addressable market. That's like step one is like, cool. Like we very much started with like creative agencies. Cool. Can we help agencies in general? Okay. That just like 10x our like addressable market from like a marketing perspective. Cool. Can we help like coaches and consultants eventually at some point? Probably. So that's like what we're thinking, like we're trying to graduate to is to like open up the market, and we want to make sure we have a good product before we do that and like good systems that can actually fulfill on promises before we do any of that. But that's like our thought process. It's kind of like expanding the market in the next couple of years and just serving more people and continuing to stay true to our product. And like we are pretty involved with everybody that we consult. So it does take a lot of time. It does take a lot, like it's expensive for us as well to hire coaches and have all the stuff that we have going on. But ultimately at the end of the day, it's what gets people results. So that's like the broad future for us. And then from a marketing perspective for that, like going really hard on YouTube, just from like a trust perspective. And then Instagram, we're really looking at as trust building, essentially. A little bit of authority, a little bit of call to action, but mostly trust building, human.
I think that two people who've done this really well, very visible, are Alex Hormozi. He started with just gyms. And then because of his success there, he was able to expand into pretty much, right now he's gone into just business in general, right? And then there's Dan Martell. I'm not sure if you watched his stuff. He started SaaS Academy, coaching SaaS agencies, and then now a lot of just business and success in general. So I think it's a pretty, it's a good path. Like it's proven. And you got to be willing to be on video a lot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, yeah, tons.
When it comes to the quality of videos, for example, a lot of people are very into the lens, the camera, the lights. And then there's the messaging, which really comes down to copywriting. How do you balance the amount of effort you put into these when you're really trying to create something that is going to bring money in to the bank for your clients, for yourself?
I would say a year ago, like really good editing was like very important and like cool and got people's attention and got people interested. I would say what I'm seeing and what we're trying to do more of is like double down on extremely good copy. Like probably the lowest leverage, like not talked about skill for a content agency is the ability to understand copywriting and influence with words. And marketing for yourself, marketing for your clients, just in general, is if you can understand copy, then I think that is like, oh my gosh, an upper hand, like completely, like massive. Like I think that is the best thing that you can understand, which roots from your offer, your customer, all that sort of stuff. So you have to have that sort of stuff figured out. But if you're a content agency and you like want to take your content to the next level, understand copy. And I think a lot of people are really good technically, but not understanding the copywriting skills. Kind of going back to my point earlier, where it's like, we're really good at copy, or we're really good at like creating videos, but maybe not good at marketing, maybe not good at copywriting, the actual stuff that can like get your clients massive results. Like those are the types of skills that I would like really be honing on. So I say that all to say copy is for sure king.
Was there a time you made a post, whether it's copy or video or Reels, the story, or YouTube, and that one's just been performing extremely well in terms of bringing you the right kind of attention, which leads to, leads in sales? Is there a standout piece of content that you can think of?
So we'll actually rapid test through ads. And so like we spend a lot of money on ads, and there's always like some like keywords. So how we'll kind of dissect this is like from sales calls, like what they're saying. And oftentimes what they'll do is they'll repeat back like what I've said in a video or like what I've said in an ad. And that will be a clear indicator of like, okay, this message is really resonating. Like our message is like actually really unique, I think. But yeah, I would say like where we spend a lot of our time, like a lot of our video, like all of it, like all of our content, I would say in the last like 6 months where we actually finally like nailed it, should speak to our avatar. But where we spend a lot of time is like our VSL, which is on our YouTube channel, where we'll really hit on it and like really speak to the pain and really speak to the outcome of our ideal customers. I mean, you're a perfect example. Like you came in, you watched the videos, and you probably were like,
I watched one, then I watched 10 probably.
And were you like, wow, that's me. I feel like he understands me? Or was there one different than another?
I don't binge 10 videos usually on one person for a while.
Right.
The part that really hooked me was first of all, well, backstory for everybody listening. We were looking for a better project management platform because we outgrew what we were using at the time. And right now, some of our stuff is getting quite messy and we need to, rethink everything. So I was looking at, all of them. And one that I'd never done before was Notion. So then I Googled, Notion project management creative agency. And your video was somewhere on page 2, maybe. Watched it out. And what happened was it was not about, like, I was thinking about the project management as a tool. And then 5 minutes in, I was like, wait, I could be optimizing so many other things in my business. So then, but the thing that actually got me was when you talked about how when clients start haggling over, well, let's cut down the number of creatives in order to save money, and how we're focusing on the wrong thing. That's when I was like, okay, this guy actually gets it at a deeper level because, we've had that type of situation a couple of times. And then you talked about what's the next step, which is actually getting appointments in the client's calendar, pretty much becoming an ad agency, which was the exact question that was going on through my mind because we're doing this for a couple of clients. And I was wondering if maybe we need to actually start expanding that. And so this was the new area that I was exploring into, expanding our services. And when you bundled it together like that, to where if you offer this to everyone, then you're selling the result, not the work. And intuitively, I'd already been talking about and thinking about this shift in our entire approach. And then you crystallized that you have a system to bind all this together and bring it together. And I was like, okay, so I think this is going to be a shortcut. It'll get us there faster, and we'll have guidance if we get stuck in implementing it. And when I got on a call with your sales rep, I already knew we're going to invest whatever it is. I didn't really care what the price was. It was a non-issue. I think if it crossed 6 figures, then I'd be like, I'd take a beat, But in my mind, I had this number, which was like, okay, up to 50K, I'd be okay. I don't know what they're offering. Oh, I did. And the price was very reasonable. I was like, okay, we're good. And I had even talked to my team about it. I'm like, I think I'm going to invest whatever it's going to be. Just want to let you know before we get on the call, but you don't have to say anything until the end. When I get into a sales conversation, it's kind of like going into what they say about gamblers, right? They say, go in with the number you're willing to spend as play money. And as soon as if you hit that number, then you got to get out. So when people get into sales conversations with me, I have a number. I feel like the value is X. And then when they make their offer, the decision is instant for me. Unless there's new information I didn't know that they offer me on the call.
Good to know. We'll up our prices, I
But
think.
most
now.
people, I don't think they budget before they go into a sales conversation. I
Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. You're a savvy buyer.
Yeah, but yeah, I felt like 50 would have been high, but worth it. That was on my mind.
Well, hopefully we can continue to provide that level of value for you.
Well, you know what? In the same way, I think I got ideas, and we'll continue talking.
We'll make this their call.
And I'm so pissed that the question I had that I think it was good. It still eludes me.
It's still in the air somewhere.
Oh, I got it. I remember. You briefly offhandedly just mentioned we rapid test the content with ads. Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so we have a media buyer, and
Is full-time in-house or?
say like 70%, but not an employee, but a contractor, but kind of operates as one, like part of the team. Like we consider him part of the team. He's a cool guy. He's done a lot of ads for a lot of coaches out there. So, but what we'll do is we'll like do like 7-day periods of testing different angles and testing different like messages. So I think like a lot of people will do it the flip side of like, oh, we're going to test on organic, but organic is very top of the funnel and the message is like very different, I would say. And it's harder to reach a lot more people that you need in order to actually get data to receive that sort of information. So say that all to say like our first ads, I probably still have them, were like, we had this like AI funnel that we were promoting. And then it was like a sales heavy ad. Like we kind of have like the offer, the sales, the systems, and the hiring. Like those are the pillars of what we know, what we can follow through on. Like if we get a client and they come for offer, for systems issues, for sales issues, for hiring issues, like we can fulfill on that sort of promise. So what we were trying to do is we would just basically test different angles with those different pillars that we can actually fulfill on until we landed on the right one. And then what I'm talking about is like specific like words. So like bottleneck or like remove yourself from the agency, or like if you're doing everything yourself, like all these different like keywords and terms, and then trying to see what actually respond. Styles of formats. So like right now we're doing like a lot of like tweets, and then we'll also do like just like random B-roll with like, I made it an Instagram essentially, and like that's the ad. Longer form ads like carousels. So a lot of different angles to test, but specifically like who is giving the best response to the ads from a qualified perspective, like what message is resonating most with those people. And then we're able to track which ad is actually a winner or not. And the formatting, of course. So
you use the success of the ads to inform your organic content, like what topics to cover.
100%. We do it backwards. Like I think like Gary V's like head of content is always on TikTok, like, oh, like post the organic and then run that as an ad. But it's like, how do you know? And if you don't have enough data,
Yeah, organic
is
enough data. Too affected by so many externalities.
Totally.
Time of day, the, random influencer happens to, like and share it. Like,
I'll give you another example. It's like we used to say creative agency, like a lot in our ads, like if you're a creative agency. And when we were targeting like video agencies and people who were like, I thought a creative agency was I shoot for my clients and then I like post and I do all that sort of stuff. But what we started to attract was graphic designers and like branding people and like all that sort of stuff, just because we said creative. So then we started saying video. And there's a lot of freelancers, and then we started saying content, and that opened up the market a little bit more. And then there was more people within the sphere of who we could actually help. So that's an example of like testing to see who's actually bringing in, or who's bringing in the right like agency. If we just say agency, is it an insurance agency? Is it a travel agency? Is it a marketing? Like that sort of stuff.
Central Intelligence Agency.
Yeah, exactly. I get the CIA up in here. We'll help you build system.
Yeah. So when you do this, do you do them sequentially, or do you put them all like in a ad set and just see which one performs best?
Kind of been like an evolution, I would say. Like we'll think about angles. Like right now, we're really lucky that we kind of have like the boundaries of the messaging for the most part, and we can kind of work angles within that boundary. But I would say like we kind of will test, we'll like look at the test, and then the next week or the week after, we'll evaluate what's working well based off of the results. And the way we're running ads is like a DM ad. So it's like direct messages. It's really tricky to track, like qualified to booking. We have an appointment setter, so like we're very involved. And then based off of what's working from qualified leads to appointments, then we'll evolve from there. And then we'll use that message in a different format. So it's kind of just like you're stacking essentially. And like you're getting like really good message over time that speaks really nicely to them in different ways, in different angles, stuff like that.
I feel like you have pretty high level skills in multiple disciplines of business. But if you were to look at like ranking from strongest to weakest, from number one, being a marketer, number two, the operations/systems, and then you have sales, right? And then you have the actual fulfillment, which is like the creative side and actually producing the stuff. I see those as like kind of the four main drivers and skill drivers in business. Where do you see yourself? Like, what's your biggest superpower?
I love systems and operations for sure. And then probably on the bottom would be sales, just because I'm not in it as much anymore. But I like systems operations just because I know how powerful it is, and it is a very powerful tool, and that's pretty much your business. It should be your systems. Like that should be your business. It shouldn't be you. It shouldn't be your team. It should be the system. So that's what runs your business. So that's what I love. And then I'm like pretty out of sales right now, so I haven't sharpened my axe. I think I've jumped on a couple of sales calls in the last couple of months actually, which have been fun, but definitely not like a closer.
Your team is doing a pretty good job. Like we got on the call and it was super chill. Loved it.
Gilberto is a good guy. Or Gilberto, our co-founder of AgencyU, like he's really good at sales. Like his company is complete opposite of mine. Not good at operations, but really good at sales.
Okay. I want to wrap this up real soon. And before I do, two things. Let us know where people can get in touch with you, the best way to, what's the best first impression they should get of you. Send us that link. I'll put it into the show notes below. But before you give us that, I would like to ask, what would you say to somebody who's got an agency, they're doing video or, some kind of agency work, and they're struggling to get past, let's say, they're trying to get to $1 million a year, like $83,000 a month, but they just keep hitting a barrier. And I know that there could be a million reasons, but from your experience, what would you say to that person they should be focusing on?
Yeah, I would go through all of those 4 different pillars, right? I would ask myself, is my offer productized and does it provide an outcome to a customer? So productized means, is it scalable, repeatable, and delegatable? Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And does it provide an outcome? Because that will make it more scalable. And then from a system perspective, do I have infrastructure that if I step away for 2 days, like everything should flow really nicely because the system's going to run my business and people will run the systems, especially if you're at like $1 million a year, like you should have that. Is that doable? And then sales, do I have predictable way to get new clients like that I could turn on and off, turn the faucet up, turn the faucet down, depending on the season? And then lastly, talent. Do I have a hiring system? Do I have a way to not only bring people in, but build them up and replace you so that you can free up your time and not have to have your hand in every single thing? Like the layers of leadership. It's just like a process of multiplying yourself in every single task that you're doing. So those are the 4 questions I would ask regarding each pillar. So I think that's it's probably one of those pillars, to be honest.
And what questions should they be asking themselves in order to know which one to focus on?
I think it's where the pain is. Like, do clients keep leaving? Is my churn really high? Okay, your offer is probably not good. Is it a feast or famine? Okay, your sales probably isn't that great. Do I feel like I have to have control over everything? Your talent acquisition probably sucks. Do I feel like it's chaotic and I'm disorganized and I'm cleaning up a lot of people's mess? Cool, your systems are probably not good. So those are the questions that are probably what they're feeling in regards to each pillar.
Gone way back to, I remember toward the beginning of when I started business, I really, really got focused on if you ask the right questions, you get better results. Ask better questions, get better results. Now that AI has come in, it has, like, I've turned that up to 200 because it's all about the questions. It's all about the prompts. And then I realized, no, it's not just AI. It's everything. And the more specific I am with my question with AI, I use that same process in asking the questions to myself and my team now and get better answers. So the parallels are uncanny. Yeah, the better you are at prompt engineering, just take those prompts and put it into like human language form and then take that to your team and you'd be amazed. So the last question, how do people find out about you? What's the best first place to go?
Probably Instagram, the Austin Schneider. It's probably where I'm most active and what content is relevant. And then we have our YouTube channel if you want to learn some things. Post a lot on there.
All right. Thanks, Austin, for sharing. And for everybody else listening, thanks for sticking around all the way to the very end. And I will put the links down there to Austin's Instagram and his other social media places. Austin, thank you so much. I appreciated this. And I think that you shared a lot of tactical stuff as well as your story. And those are the 2 things I found in podcasts people tend to engage with the most is when there's specific actionable advice and when there's a story attached to it. So you delivered 10 out of 10 on both. I appreciate your coming on the show. All right. And for everybody else, I'll see you next week.
No hustle, worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalists, we're breaking the mold. Cause the old ways fading, new stories to the toe. So content capitalists, get to the prize.